Hello, we are joined by Dr. Adrianna Marshall. Dr. Adrianna Marshall is a well-traveled scholar, originally from Kansas City, Missouri, home of the Kansas City Chiefs. She earned her PhD at the University of Florida, her master's degree at Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore, Maryland, and her undergraduate degree from Xavier University of Louisiana. Dr. Marshall is a nationally recognized clinician who has presented sessions on creating urban programs, culturally responsive teaching, and strategies to increase minority student population. She currently serves as a coordinator of fine arts and physical education for Kansas City Public Schools and is passionate about providing students with an equitable and quality public school education. Dr. Marshall, you are a new face to MOSHAPE, so thank you for being on with us, and the show is yours.
Thanks for having me today. And we are going to talk about culture responsive teaching in urban areas. But first, I want us to just talk about what does urban mean? Because we all have different definitions of the term. Now, urban normally means, an area that's large. It has a large population, the density of the population, and there is a economical activity within this part of a state. Now, we cannot get that confused with like suburban or rural, right? So rural is, the population is smaller in size, right? And the density is smaller. And then suburban is, cities outside of a large city. So when we think about urban, we start kind of visualizing, well, what is in an urban population? Sometimes we go to race, right? And we start thinking of, okay, well, a lot of urban populations are filled with people of color, minorities. Some people consider urban population with people who have a lower income status. Sometimes we even start thinking about the lifestyle of people in the urban area. So we have families that might live closer together. We have families that use public transportation. We have families who, they're first generation Americans, they're foreign born and are immigrants. And we also maybe even consider some of those families as English as a second language. But then, when you really kind of think about this definition of urban, people start, putting on the umbrella of, okay, it's a multicultural environment. But then sometimes it kind of elaborates and it's enhanced to think, okay, well, maybe it's African-American culture. Some people put that together because of different type of commercials. Then the term inner city comes to mind, right? Sean, when you think about urban, do you connect the words inner city? And when you start saying the word inner city, I think that's when the word urban becomes negative. What do you think?
Being from St. Louis, Missouri for a long time, I just, that went hand in hand to me. Urban meant inner city, St. Louis County and St. Louis City were two different things. I lived in the county when I grew up, but a lot of my family were in the urban setting, downtown St. Louis. So yes.
So that's why I wanted to kind of go over that term. So now I'm going to present some common perceptions about urban schools. So some of this information is going to come from a previous study that I conducted on perceptions or observations or interpretations of urban schools. So some of the questions that came up, these are some of the descriptions. So common perceptions: students have a low income, they're limited in their English, there might be instability within their family structure, and one that really stands out is the poor health. And so that is something that really stood out in my study when we think about children, K-12, who are attending urban or inner city schools. So some of the other issues that some of the participants described was there could be violence in those neighborhoods or those schools that have a lack of resources as compared to suburban schools, county schools, or private schools. One that was very interesting is they think that there could be an ineffective teaching of these children from these schools and successful outcomes within their curriculum. And then just saying that there could be limited opportunities for these students within these schools. So these perceptions or observations was something that really stood out within my study. Do I believe that this is true? No, not all the time. But when you think about pre-service teachers who are in physical education programs, if they saw this type of data, it might deter them from wanting to apply to work at an urban school. So with knowing this, let's try to complete these sentences. So Sean, I'll need your help with this. I want you to come up with a positive and a negative completion of these sentences. So what is urban teaching in 2020? A K-12 educator who teaches in an environment that is...
Culturally diverse.
Okay, that's the positive. Or is that the negative?
I hope it's the positive one.
Me too.
You still going, or is it me still?
I'm just asking you what could be a negative completion to that sentence.
Oh, so what's the negative? Okay, I got you now. I got you. So the positive is, culturally diverse, different backgrounds, different ethnicities, all in one environment. The negative, so urban teaching in 2020, a K-12 educator who teaches in an urban environment that is on the negative side, that is underfunded, underrepresented.
Yeah, good one. So next, this teacher spends most of their day.
Is he today teaching?
Well, maybe it's correcting behavior all day, right? That could be a negative.
That's a negative, yeah.
What's a positive?
A positive, urban teaching in 2020, a teacher that spends most of their day enhancing the lives of their students.
Beautiful. Last, what challenges this teacher the most?
In 2020, what challenges the teacher the most in the urban setting is, on the positive side, the biggest challenge is connecting the students to their community. Mm-hmm. I think that's a positive challenge.
Yes.
I think what challenges this teacher the most on the negative side is not kind of going back to the first one, not having the resources to enhance the lives of those students, give them the quality teaching they deserve.
Yeah, it could have been like a teacher who grew up in a suburban area, but then decided to teach in an urban area and just saw the disparities of resources. One of the challenges is maybe this teacher only knows English, right? Or this teacher is in an environment where it's different from where they came from, and they're just trying to find those strategies to make sure that they're doing a good job with their multicultural population. So yeah, it could go both ways. Let's keep going here. Thank you.
There's no wrong answer, right?
No, there's no wrong answer. There is, right.
I'm just saying, Dr. Marshall put me on the spot in a good way. So definitely a good learning lesson. Thank you, Dr. Marshall.
You're welcome. So the preconceived stereotypes, right? And stereotypes is something that we all do, but about parents and students in these low income and urban schools, some feel like the environment can be dangerous. Students do not want to learn, right? They're not interested in that. There's a lack of quality teaching. Maybe they feel like in these areas, there's a lot of burnt out teachers. The students are loud and unruly. I kind of like that one. I like loud kids. There's little parental involvement, and there's parents who do not value education. Now, what do you think about these stereotypes? Have you ever heard of these stereotypes when it's in regards to urban schools and parents?
All the time, especially the loud and unruly ones. You kind of take, to take the mall example, right? You walk through a
Mhm.
mall, you see a group of white kids, right? That's
Yeah.
perceived differently from a group of black kids. The white kids,
Mhm.
they're just around, whatever, talking, probably being just as loud as the black kids, but you see the black, the group of black kids, and oh, they're doing something criminal or they're planning something.
I mean, I've never been in an environment that I thought was a dangerous, you know. Even when I taught in very low income areas, like I really felt like the community was happy that I was there. One time I left my car door open, one neighbor just closed the door, locked it for me, and informed the principal, so I feel like, man, this is unfair, right? These perceptions, this is unfair. What can we do about these stereotypes? Sometimes it's just teachers being, hands-on experiences and learning, like, this is not true. Maybe I know sometimes this is the last one. The parents do not value education. Sometimes parents are busy working, and they can't come to parent teacher conference. Maybe they have their own business or they're traveling a lot. And, it's just different for them at home. But we really have to look at these stereotypes and figure out a way for us teachers to have more sense to believe that this is true, because in a lot of situations, it's not. Um, so, on my study, I did talk to some physical education and health teachers, and I wanted them to help me with the parental perceptions. So, on the positive side, I could want that, especially like first or second year physical education teachers, to think the parents of my students are excited about physical education course offerings, right? And they should be excited about, different programs that we have going on, especially in my district. We have so many different community involvement, and I really want my parents to know about that. The parents of my students place a high value on physical education and health education. It's very important that you, like, as a teacher, that you have to speak this, even if it's through a newsletter and just giving out a few facts, just to help parents understand, your goals for your students. And lastly, the parents of my student, they fully support my fitness program, you know, especially right now during the pandemic. I love when parents are doing the workouts with their children, and showing that support that, every day I want my child to be active. Every day I want my child to think about healthy options. Um, so, sometimes you just have to turn things around. You just have to communicate with those parents about the objectives and the goals of your program.
So, real
So,
quick, Dr. Marshall, you mentioned community involvement in there. Can you give us an
mhm.
example of that? How
um,
community partners or members are involved?
Well, we like this year we're working with the American Heart Association, and we're doing some programming with them. We also have a program with Children's Mercy Hospital, and they have provided garments for some of our elementary kids, and they push into the classroom and they do healthy workouts and they track their progress. Children's Mercy and Kansas City Public Schools were working together to brainstorm and bring new programming to our students. Um, we are just trying to do everything we can during this pandemic to make sure kids know that, you know, all of the subject areas, even the performance-based subject areas, are very important. So,
Thank you.
oh, you're welcome. So we're going to move on, and we're going to talk about culturally responsive teaching. So culturally responsive teaching means that teachers will reflect on and consider the relationship between cultures and learning. And teachers will understand that culturally responsive teaching involves a genuine respect for students and believe that their potential as learners is very high. And, going forward on that, teachers, they will have to understand the importance of connecting students' experiences, and they will try to explore and create culturally responsive teaching, caring environments that make a child feel safe. And I think that's the biggest part, feeling safe and feeling connected to the education, right? That is most important. And, in some subject areas, it could be easier than others, but I think that is really important that our physical education and our health teachers really come up with these different strategies to make it fun for our students. So first of all, Sean, what do you think? What does culture mean? What is your definition?
Ooh, let me open my internal encyclopedia here, or
Please.
dictionary. What does culture mean? Culture, a set of values and ideas shared amongst a group.
That's correct, right? Some people call it a way of life, or it's the way that a group of people, how they function in society, right? What is a cultural reference?
Ooh. A cultural reference, so the Bible, Quran, your religious scriptures. That's my thought of cultural reference.
Okay, so that's correct. So it's something within a culture only they would understand. So if I told you that I'm bringing the potato salad to the picnic, who's going to understand that? African American culture.
Exactly. And then we're gonna ask who made that potato salad. Depending on who made that potato salad, we may not touch that potato salad. That potato salad gonna be left in the back of the fridge for the next Thanksgiving.
So that happens a lot in the classroom. So a teacher could come in and they'll see a group of students and they're making jokes and references, and the teacher has no idea what they're talking about. And sometimes they might even be talking about that teacher, right? And we don't know. So sometimes it's really important, if somehow, you don't want to be like the cool teacher all the time, but you want to understand cultural references of your students, because that's going to help you connect with them. Okay, so last question here. How do we vary between various cultures? What's the differences? And you were just kind of talking about that with religion, right? So religion is one. What else? Clothing.
Okay, so yeah.
Holidays.
Yeah. There you go. See, you got the answers, doctor. That's why that's why you're on this side of the presentation, right?
So yeah, these are things that are, what we place value on. Every culture has they value different things, right? And
Yep.
we were just talking about that earlier too, right? Some cultures, they value their land. Some cultures value, where they praise. It just depends, right? And then also different cultures have various languages within that culture, right? So I have students who, in the Kansas City Public Schools, there's a school where there's over 50 languages spoken. And so there could be a child who might actually speak 4 languages and be part of 3 or 4 cultures, depending on the makeup of their family. So this is the type of information that is important to know. Why is it important to know, for a teacher, you think, Sean, to know about holidays?
Well, just going back to what you were saying, is you want that student to feel valued and safe. To recognize one culture's is to recognize that student. And then, you take it in time, then you're building that relationship. And that's where your effective instruction comes from, is building that relationship. But it starts with seeing that student for who they are and valuing them.
Yeah, so maybe you would not do a physical fitness exam during Ramadan.
Right.
Right? So that's why it's really important for teachers to take their time and really try to get to know the student. Now, what sometimes happens is teachers will start peppering students with a lot of questions. And that's actually the wrong strategy. The right strategy, and the strategy that's always worked for me, is I just try to be as open as possible, and students will just start telling you all about themselves, you know, on their terms, because they start feeling safe around you. So let's go on here. So more on culture responsive teaching. You want to develop a knowledge base about cultural diversity. A second suggestion is including the ethnic and cultural diversity content in your curriculum. Very important to do. 3, you want to demonstrate caring and building a learning community. And, you know, you might want to do that by having an after school program, or having a parent, like a PTA group, doing fundraisers that include the community, and trying to bring all of your students together to do a project. Cross-cultural communication. So that's the process of creating and sharing meaning among people who are from various backgrounds. And cultural congruity, right? So that is like, think about it like a teacher can consider the impact of the school culture and then like what the student does at home. And so they will try to evaluate the classroom to make it a place that the students will feel comfortable and they can see themselves represented. Maybe you have different posters up in your classroom that represent different nationalities, and you try to engage them with some of your curriculum materials. Maybe you can do things that reflect on home. Like I've done a little project where I wanted every student to bring a picture when they were a baby. And I mean, it's just all kinds of different backgrounds. I had a baby, like a picture of this little girl, and she was like born in a hut in Africa. Right. And so like, she's literally like behind the Amazon, like a rainforest, and like in a diaper. It was amazing to see this picture, you know, and she just felt so proud bringing it to school. And I just thought it was the most amazing thing that, you know, she felt comfortable enough to show that to me in the class. You can also do like get to know activities. One activity that I've done is students will like write down really funny facts about themselves, and then we'll like on a card, and then you mix up the cards, and then I'll read one. And let's see if we can figure out what student it is in the room. And that only happens when you have this culture of all the students like getting to know each other and respecting each other for the individual differences. So that's something that I want to share with you guys. So let's talk about, you know, developing the knowledge base and how we can break through with our children. We can learn about how they feel about physical fitness classes. You can maybe do that the first week of school. Find out what they know about health and wellness. Just, you know, a little diagnostic, just to see where they are and what those cultural differences are, right? Because there's some cultures where diet is different. And so we don't want to say, oh, you have to do this diet because this is what works, right? Because you could turn kids off right then and there because you don't understand where they came from. Or you might have kids where some things are out of their reach, right? If you tell a kid, oh, you want to eat 100% organic, but this kid is from a low income school that's kind of not being sensitive to where they are in life, right? How can I relate learning about health to current society? So what, like I just said, you know, the buzzwords about, you know, different diets and different fads and how that could go against everything that kid does at home could be very, very confusing. And so sometimes you just kind of have to break down questions and answer them in the best way you can possible. If you don't know an answer to a question that goes against their diet or their religious beliefs, and just take your time to kind of research that information. How can I incorporate their personal preferences into the lessons? Again, that's something that comes with time. That comes with getting to know your students, getting to know where they're from, and trying to incorporate that. Maybe you do vocabulary words. Maybe you do lessons on history that you bring in different notable figures from different countries, just so everyone feels like they are part of the curriculum. And then last, how can I encourage students to be accountable for their education? You want them to be accountable for their education because, especially their physical education and fitness, because you have to, especially for the K lower levels, it starts there with them understanding that health is wealth, right? Healthy choices, being active, those things really, really help you, especially right now during this pandemic. It's really helped people just get outside and get fresh air and jog around, take walks. Don't sit down and eat all day and watch Netflix because you're at home, social distancing,
There's
right?
something wrong. Wait, you can't do that? You can't sit at home all day and watch Netflix?
I mean, that's the dream.
And then and be healthy at the same time? No.
I mean, depends on your metabolism, right? Some people can.
Oh no, well, no, we're past that.
Yes, we are, sir. All right. So I know you asked a few questions of me, and I want to answer those about the Kansas City Public Schools and what's going on with us. And so let's talk about that. So Kansas City, by the numbers, I'm just going to put up some demographics. Currently, we have over 20 elementary teachers and over 20 secondary teachers. So in our schools, we have about 15,000. Our school population is kind of diverse. We are 100% free lunch school system. And right now, our daily attendance is 84%, but I think it's increased since this publication came out. And most importantly, as you can see, over 50 languages are spoken within our students. So over 50 languages at 33 schools, that's pretty amazing. What do you think?
I'm sorry, I stopped at the 100% of students qualified for free reduced meals. It's hard to even say that's a big number. That's your entire student body, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes. So we make sure that all of our students have nutrition.
So let me ask a question. I know you kind of talked a little bit about this new coronavirus world. How did that look? How did that look when school, KCPS closed back in, March or April? Were you still able to provide meals to students?
Yes. Yes. We have stations where you can drive up to this day because we're still virtual. Okay. And there's buses that go around. Yeah. So we're still providing food, meals, lunch, breakfast. So yes, it's a wonderful thing that we're able to do that for our students. And it's something for kids who are depending on we still are making sure that we're providing that for our students. Anything else?
No. I mean, that was definitely the shocking number right there. Looking at that student teacher ratio, definitely a larger class size. How does that look in the virtual world?
Some classes are bigger than others. Some are physical education classes. They vary in size depending on the numbers. But I just want to tell you, let me go on to the next slide because I want to let you know about our schools. So there is an extra school. We have the Kansas City Virtual School. So right now, if a parent decided that no matter what happens with the pandemic, I want my student to only be in virtual school. They're not gonna, if we decide that there's gonna be a hybrid option after the numbers are decreasing of cases, I still want my child to be virtual. And so that's another school system we have right now. So we have, and then do you know what a signature school is?
No, you have to explain that one.
So signature schools, they offer different experiences in education. They have like a specialized course offerings, like we have a performing arts school, we have Montessori schools, we have a IB school. And so they have different course offerings and have little specializations within their curriculum.
Okay. I actually taught when I was in Springfield. I taught at an IB school, International Baccalaureate School. So, okay.
Yeah.
I get the concept, just kind of named differently, right?
Yes, definitely.
If you could, real quick, I do want to highlight one thing, and that's the charter school. And I think that's, a lot of teachers may, heard of charter schools and everything. What makes a charter school different from your everyday public school?
I believe that they're just, well, let's say like it wasn't a charter school that belonged to the district, like just an outside charter school. As far as the requirements for the state are different.
So when it comes to testing and certain things like that?
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, it's just a different model, different types of curricula involved in that.
And then one other, neighborhood schools. You might have to let the audience know what neighborhood schools are.
So a neighborhood school is around within a zone, right? So like neighborhood zones. And so they're just schools that are really primarily for that neighborhood. Like the kids can walk to the school. There's like the elementary, the middle, and the high school are very close together within that neighborhood.
So it's kind of one of those things. It's almost breaking certain barriers for families. So yeah, so they're right there. There's not a long travel. It's always it's basically just a ready resource for those families, for the school to be right there.
Exactly. So like right now during the pandemic, if the child, needs a textbook or, where they can roll up for the lunch program, there's like a drive-through they can pick up lunch and breakfast right then and there. So very convenient. So let's talk about the challenges we are having in our remote learning. And so this information is from our teachers. I asked them these questions. I'm going to move this a little bit. So not being able to have their hands-on experience with the elementary students and being able to help them with their physical movements during those lessons. Lack of interest in the learning, on the distant learning, having and also when the kids are at home during the workouts, like they could have limited space to do the workouts, and then the lack of limited PE equipment at home for the lessons if it requires that. And then just the uncertainties that the students are active after they log off. So after the workout, is that all they did all day? Did they go outside and play, or did they, do something else in the house that was active, like jumping jacks and things like that? So just the uncertainties of their day is one of the concerns and challenges for us during remote learning. Students who are unable to use technology, we have provided Chromebooks and MacBooks for students. We have also provided hotspots for all the students in Kansas City Public Schools with unlimited data, because we have a lot of really cool applications, and we want to make sure that students are able to use all of our digital platforms and resources. Just maintaining that student engagement every day. Sometimes students are getting burnt out by being online like everywhere else in the country. And then just, again, like that at-home equipment, do students have light weights, or do they have jump ropes or resistant bands or balls? Just those activities, it's just limiting of what they can do with those lessons every day. And some students actually refuse to turn the camera on, and so it's kind of hard to say, hey, come on, turn that camera on, I want to see your face. And so just like those strategies of, some of those kids feel like, it's home shaming, that maybe they don't want to feel like something in their background doesn't look the way they want it to look, and so they don't want to turn their camera on.
And I was going to ask, you answered the why a student would feel they don't need to turn their camera on. Because that's been a common thing. That's been a common thing in this virtual world. How can teachers approach that?
I mean, I've heard, like, since I do observations, I mean, some teachers are like, hey, if you're not here, you don't get your points. But that's really not fair. I mean, some students, they have their camera off and they have it on mute because their background is very loud. Some of them might have a newborn baby sister or brother, right? Or there's like 4 other siblings all on their laptops trying to do their work at the same time. So, there could be things that we don't know about why they don't want to turn their cameras on.
So I'll ask the Dr. Marshall, then how would you approach it?
I would probably give some type of cool incentive to turn their cameras on, like extra credit, or, I don't know. I don't know if I'll be as desperate as sending McDonald's gift cards out, but I don't, whatever it would take. I mean, that's the question of the year. That is the question of the year. I mean, some schools, it's just the expectation is to have your camera on. So I think maybe just having the expectation going forward is the right thing to do. But I could see myself, if I was in middle school, I might not want to turn my camera on just because I don't want to, right?
Right. And my thing is, and going, when it comes to that, that's just, understanding that student, right? So like you listed some of the reasons why a student wouldn't want to turn on that camera. So definitely going back to just your previous conversation, making sure you're, even in the virtual world, doing the best you can to build a relationship with the student to really understand that situation.
Yeah, and sometimes you just have to if they can't turn their camera on, you just have to be understanding and just hope that they're still doing the workouts. They probably are. Maybe not everyone wants to work out with a camera in front of them.
True.
Right?
Right.
Yeah, just being understanding and I think they're doing the workouts regardless of having their camera on or not. And the last one is, students missing on the roster. In this virtual world, did they join the virtual academy or did they go to a charter school? Like, why haven't they shown up for class? Right then and there, it's just, our teachers are always calling home and emailing and keeping those lines of communication open so we have the best attendance possible. And it's working for us. It really is. Okay, so how has COVID-19 affected our school and community? Right now, we have not been able to have a hybrid option because we have high cases in Kansas City. So until those numbers are lower, we have to keep our community safe and our children safe so we don't have any face-to-face interaction. So, if a student just joined the district and they have not met a teacher yet or been to their school for the first time, or maybe they're kindergartners and they're starting school for the first time, they have not met their teacher yet. So that really, really is just unfortunate. So it's really hard to conduct quizzes on fitness, with the whole camera thing and being able to time things because we're all virtual. Low attendance. Sometimes if a class is super early in the morning or super late in the afternoon, some kids are burnt out and, it's easier just to catch a kid in the hallway, but they're at home. We can't, you have to turn your computer on. And so it's up to the kid and make sure that you have the lines of communication open with the parent if they have missed some classes that week. Not being able to meet the new students. And then also, if a teacher contracts COVID, it's hard to get subs. If they're sick and recovering from the virus, they're at home.
Quick question to the teachers in your district. Are they physically going to the building or are they working from home?
Some are working from home and some are working in the building.
Was it kind of an option, or was it just like?
It's a preference.
Okay.
It's a preference. Yeah. I mean, like you think about a science teacher, if they're trying to do an experiment, they want to be around their equipment. Same thing with some of the music teachers, if they want to play their pianos in their room or have the large whiteboard behind them. Sometimes it's easier to go into work. I mean, if I was teaching, I would probably go into work because I have 2 toddlers at home. So, those teachers who have large families and their kids are going to school virtually, they might want to come into the office and do their work. I know, it's not every day, just a few days a week that teachers are going in at the school site.
So what about the majority of your health and physical educators?
It's like a handful. Some go in and use the gym or use the workout rooms and take from there, and some don't. So yeah, it goes. I've seen it both ways, and I've seen it effective both ways too. Some of our teachers have figured out how to make it work at home and make it effective, and kids are logging on and doing their work every day. So yeah, definitely. And then, if a student is doing, a movement wrong, they can't just like come over there and show them, it's hard. Especially if you have the whole screen of kids and you're trying to see who's doing it right. And like, you just want to help them, especially for the younger kids. It's frustrating when you can't just give them a helping hand. Right. So, okay, so our action steps for improvement. We're focusing on health and wellness units to supplement some of the physical fitness activities that we just cannot do virtually. We have created plans for accountability and strategies to make sure that students are attending class and they're turning in their work on time and that they're engaged in answering questions during the lessons. We've increased our communication with parents, and we even had a parent university where we're just teaching our parents how to use some of the online applications just to make sure that when they're at home, they can help their child, in their little classroom at home. We're prepared for reentry whenever that happens. We're ready to go. Whenever.
Have you has KCPS set aside a day as a possible day?
No, not yet.
Just flying by. That's a lot of districts in the state. You keep watching the numbers like you talked about, and when it seems to be trending downward, then you start making your plans for bringing students back, because ultimately, we'd love to have our students physically in the building.
Yeah, but it's very important just as a district to be ready. So when the opportunity is there, we can implement it as soon as possible. And we've created some self-paced workouts, and those seem to be very fun and engaging for the students to have supplemental things. We have teachers who have online YouTube channels. We have KCPS homeroom, and on Fridays, we present health and fitness activities for the whole entire Kansas City metro area, and it's through 38 The Spot. And so that is a way for our students to, if you can't use your computer, you can watch it on TV. As long as you have an antenna, it's public access TV. So, and then we want to try to provide some at-home PE equipment, but we're still working on that. So hopefully we can do that.
So if you were to provide at-home PE equipment, what would it be?
We would love to have jump ropes, have handballs, maybe sidewalk chalk, so they can, well, now it's getting kind of cold, but they could create different workouts themselves, resistant bands, small weights. We would like for every kid to have like a stopwatch. So those are the things that we would love to provide. So let me know if there's an angel out there. So Kansas City Public Schools.
Right. You know, just maybe some grant offerings, or just like you said, an angel that just got money like that, dropping dollars
Yes,
down on
yes,
KCPS. So
yes,
kids are all over the state of Missouri, so kids can have equipment in their virtual space.
yes, our most deserving children in Kansas City public schools. So how can you support us? And this is from our teachers. Share additional interactive tools, provide more ideas how to complete fitness assessments at home, offer assistance regarding surviving during this pandemic. Maybe it's something that is that has in regards to personal mental health of our teachers to keep going and being able to keep the positive attitude when it seems like things are crazy out here in the world. And then also just to provide some, I didn't write this, this is from my team.
Hey,
It's just some more resources for our younger kids.
you know, and number three is so important. It's really important because we're all, you know, all teachers, educators, whomever are going through, even, you know,
Mm-hmm.
me in the position I'm in, working from home, you know, and doing all that. I don't have that opportunity to travel out and talk to teachers like I want to. So I have to be in this virtual space as well. Um, but yeah, making sure teachers somehow, some way stay connected.
Yes, definitely. So yeah, that's some of the questions that we had answered through our staff, and I also have some resources here, and I'll make sure I'll send this to you, some textbooks and some websites that are very, very engaging and effective in getting that. You know how sometimes you have to read a website, it's like, come on, get to the bread. I want to just know what I need to know so I can move on, right? And so
Right.
that this is my suggestions for that. And so that's about it. Do you have any questions for me?
You answered it. I was definitely going to go into, you know, what resources do teachers need, um, just to learn. Because the first thing you said when it comes to culturally responsive teaching is having that knowledge base.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you
And also
know,
just having an open heart. Sometimes it's about listening, it's about observing, it's about, taking, breaking down things that you've heard in the past, or those prejudging people and those stereotypes. Just get rid of all that and just kind of meet the kids and meet the environment where you are with the open ears and open heart, open your eyes.
right.
Yeah, and just
Well,
be, you gotta just be, every day, you just have to be flexible.
and you know, health and physical educators, we are the best at being flexible and adaptable. So, boom, there you go. There you have it, Dr. Adrianna Marshall. We appreciate your time. We'll have a resources hub with all this content, particularly the video and the resources that Dr. Marshall shares. If you would like the presentation, you'd have to reach out to Dr. Marshall personally. So I'll make sure you have her contact information to go along with that. Dr. Marshall, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.